Magic Cactus is, in short, an alternative to alcohol with an approachable hemp infusion and functional ingredients. So the idea is that they're designed to together unlock sort of a clear-headed, non-toxic drinking experience. So, it's kind of targeting those who are looking to drop alcohol as little as for the night and as much as for life and everywhere in between. So, in our country, there's no doubt about it that, alcohol consumption is the norm and it's a problem really globally, but there's no shortage of non-alcoholic beverages, that's for sure. And while I'm a fan of a lot of those brands and think they're delicious, it just didn't seem like there was a true beverage product that could stand in the place of alcohol, when it comes to the cognitive effects that you get from alcohol. And so that's kind of what led to the creation of Magic Cactus.
This is BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio with your host, Tyler Jorgenson.
Welcome out to BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio. I am your host, Tyler Jorgenson, and today we have Jonny Locarni coming to us to talk to us about a brand that he has created called Magic Cactus. And I'm really excited about this because every entrepreneur has a story of why they created something. And this is a really fascinating one. And over the last, if you've been listening to the show, the past 5, 6, 7 episodes, a lot of them have been about alcohol brands. And whenever I have this kind of series of alcohol brands come up, I ask myself the question like, well, what about for people who aren't? Or how do we approach this topic of responsibility? And so I think we're going to talk a little bit about that today. But Jonny, first of all, just welcome out to the show.
Thank you, Tyler. Appreciate it, man. Excited to chat. Thanks for having me.
So we're going to get into your story, but I want to zoom back even before that to begin. When was the moment where you first realized that you weren't necessarily like other people and that you were an entrepreneur?
That's funny. This question keeps coming up. It's hilarious. I was always kind of putting together scrappy little projects as a kid before even the word entrepreneur was in my brain.
Right.
In high school, I worked at a sunglass hut at the mall, and I tried to we got an employee discount, so I would try to buy, get my employee discount and then sell them on an eBay marketplace at full price. It's just little things like that. In college, I was selling hats and shirts to fraternities and sororities. So I think at that point, kind of in college, I realized that I had this sort of itch to, create things and kind of go out there and do things differently. But, I didn't think that meant I was going to be an entrepreneur for a career. I just kind of thought these were little fun projects at the time.
I think what I've found is that if you're the kind of person that sees the employee discount as an opportunity to make more money, that is by its very most pure nature, the spirit of entrepreneurship, right? Is like, there's an opportunity here and I'm going to see what I can do. And sunglasses have insane margin. I don't know how good the employee discount was.
Yeah. Sunglasses have insane margin. The employee discount was super slim, and it didn't work out because everyone was sketched out by how they could possibly be.
Ironically, I have the last remaining pair of a sunglass brand that I started with some friends about a decade ago, and we sold off. But the last pair, we started with all bamboo, and then they some bamboo and plastic. But
nice.
Anyway, just happened to be awesome on my desk next to me.
So you know the game. Sunglasses, man. Yeah, the margins are ridiculous.
Well, I toured the Oakley warehouse or headquarters once, and I realized, they're selling them for $120, $160, but it still costs them $7 to $9 to make. But they do spend a lot of money on R&D and overhead and marketing and branding.
For sure.
When you get down to the raw margin, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So then you start, selling t-shirts, doing that kind of stuff. But then Magic Cactus, this is a brand and a product that has a little bit more than just flipping some sunglasses and some more substance to it. So first explain what Magic Cactus is, and then tell us why you created it.
Yeah, for sure. So, Magic Cactus is, in short, an alternative to alcohol with an approachable hemp infusion and functional ingredients. So the idea is that they're designed to together unlock sort of a clear-headed, non-toxic drinking experience. So, it's kind of targeting those who are looking to drop alcohol as little as for the night and as much as for life and everywhere in between. So, kind of to backtrack on a little bit about that is, in our country, there's no doubt about it that, alcohol consumption is the norm, and it's a problem really globally, but, there's no shortage of non-alcoholic beverages, that's for sure. And while I'm a fan of a lot of those brands and think they're delicious, it just didn't seem like there was a true beverage product that could stand in the place of alcohol, when it comes to the cognitive effects that you get from alcohol. And so that's kind of what led to the creation of Magic Cactus. I'm sure we'll get further into the backstory soon, but in short, that's kind of the gap we saw.
Yeah. And so when you go from having an idea or maybe making some craft mocktails at home to launching a brand, what was one of the biggest obstacles that you hit from idea to actually being in the market?
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, product is the hardest part. I'm not by trade a food scientist. You can make a delicious beverage in the soda stream in your kitchen, sure, but that doesn't always translate to a commercially viable product. So, I think we probably took longer on formulation than most would that are experienced in the product space. And I think, we wanted to knock it out of the park too. So we didn't want to just kind of throw these ingredients into a can and take it to market. We wanted to make sure the effects, the taste, the nutrition facts were all kind of where we wanted it to be.
Yeah. And so, I mean, going from an idea to launch is always hard. But in ready to drink beverages and in food products in general, you're not just making these in your kitchen, self-bottling and shipping out. You're also adding in some regulation and some, age restrictions and other challenges. How did you navigate all of that as you went through that ideation to launch process?
Yeah. So are you talking just the regulatory side itself?
Just, yeah. How you got from idea to launch? I mean, you went through so many pieces. So we'll go through regulatory. Yeah. How did you navigate that?
Yeah. So, I think I had slightly an advantage on kind of the formulation on the regulatory side because I came from the THC space prior.
Oh, okay.
So I started my career in finance, and then kind of accidentally fell into a consulting engagement on the finance side within the cannabis industry in California. So, I was helping a few groups kind of move their way from the sort of gray area medical space in California to the licensed recreational space. And so, next thing I knew, on top of my full-time job at the time, I had, 5 or 6 of these cannabis clients. And I had no, at the time, I really didn't know much about cannabis in general. I mean, the industry itself. And so I learned a ton really quickly through that and really got interested in just the intricacies and complexities of that industry and the challenges and, started to kind of form my own opinion on different gaps that needed to be filled. I was always on the side of this is going recreational, which means this cannabis curious consumer is going to be walking into dispensaries. Why isn't there a dispensary experience? At the time, this is, keep in mind, 2016, 2017. Now there are plenty of great dispensary experiences, but at the time it was all bars on the windows, that green neon sign, and armed security. And so it's like, the kind of curious consumer who maybe is visiting LA or just, wants to kind of curious about cannabis in general, they're walking into a very intimidating experience that isn't really a retail environment where they can shop around. It's a very kind of robust, scary shopping experience. So I was that is when the first, light bulb went on for me where, there is a whole different world that's kind of untapped, which is this newer consumer, the non-regular cannabis consumer is kind of being underserved. So to rewind that, after doing some consulting, we started a group that owned a few dispensary licenses. We were awarded one of the first on-premise consumption licenses. So those West Hollywood lounges you may have heard of back in 2019. And so I got to sink my teeth into a lot of the regulatory pieces and kind of learn how the kind of the THC industry works before going into formulation on the hemp side.
Yeah, so you had a lot more experience than some people getting into this, right? Where
Right.
you'd worked with other people, worked on their businesses, given them, worked on the finance side and the operational side. So you got to see a lot of things. But what
Hmm.
made you decide, out of all of those things happening, you've seen all the regulation, you've seen the roadblocks and the challenges. You're like, you know what? I'm going to launch a brand, right? That's a big leap from working for other people to doing your own. What was the catalyst that pushed you into that?
Yeah. So, kind of shortly before working with Magic Cactus, was working with a couple different beverage brands in the THC space. And I had my own opinion, but it wasn't my brand of how
Sure.
this should look. And a lot of these brands are, at the time, this is kind of predating this sort of hemp opportunity. But on the cannabis side, you're selling to dispensaries, right? So you're trying to please these dispensary buyers. And so every brand is kind of guilty of, launching these 100 milligram products, 5, 10, 20 milligram products. And I just thought, the whole point of beverage, in my, biased opinion, is that, if you can drink a beverage in a sessionable way, it should be low dose, because otherwise, if I just want 20 milligrams, I'll just go for a gummy and get immediate 20 milligram dosage of THC. Whereas beverage, I didn't understand the point of 100 milligram beverages when you just like have a few sips and then you just wait an hour and a half for the, whatever it is for the effects.
Right.
And so, after kind of, I helped out some brands. I was just kind of contract consultant type, for the most part. And I just kind of, at some point was like, well, if no one else is going to kind of take this specific direction, then I think I gotta go do it on my own.
So you saw it as, the products that were out there were basically liquid edibles, right? They were,
right.
you had to consume it in a very specific way, but you wanted to build something that you could drink more in a more relaxed state, not worrying as much about, but still have an experience. Much more of a social beverage than a functional, like social, almost like benefit first instead of function first. I don't know if that makes sense or if I'm right there.
Yeah,
but.
Exactly. Great way to put it. And honestly, it just goes back to this obsession of trying to mirror the drinking experience of alcohol without the negatives.
Yeah. Because if you're having, a half a can of something, then putting it down for the rest of the night, that's not the same thing as nursing a drink over the evening or having a couple. So that makes a lot of sense. And so how'd you come up with the name? I love the brand. I love the hat you're wearing for those people watching or not watching. They're just listening. Magic Cactus Country Club. I just love kind of the fun vibes there. So how'd you come up with the branding and the name?
Yeah, well, this hat was from, we're based in Arizona. So this was our event we did at Waste Management Open last year, or earlier this year. So we did the golf tournament, kind of did an event there with a few other brands, and the hats ended up kind of sticking. We did a limited run of these hats, and then people were like, I want that just in general, not just for the event. So we made a few more. But, the brand Magic Cactus itself kind of followed the formulation, to be honest. So when we were formulating at first, we had a few goals that I've kind of mentioned, which, one being, let's have a drinking experience that is like alcohol, but doesn't have the consequences. So we wanted to make sure it was, hangover free. You don't wake up with that brain fog. And it was, fatigue free even during consumption. So it wasn't that couch locked cannabis effect that you get from a lot of traditional products.
Right.
So, we read a medical paper super early on that basically, in summary, said, the main reasons that, both THC and alcohol lead to fatigue are the tendency to deplete a few key electrolytes from the body, being salt, potassium, and magnesium being the main three. So we were looking for a base of the product that had those ingredients that could kind of replenish those electrolyte levels while you're drinking, without, of course, being like a THC Gatorade.
Sure.
Doing it in a way that's like, it's not like a super salty electrolyte heavy beverage, but it has those elements to replenish, to kind of offset that fatigue. So we started out actually with coconut water, ironically. And so we were formulated with coconut water. We had an early focus group on like a first sample of like, hey, do you like this? Basically, a list of very simple questions like, is this a good formula? And I couldn't believe it, because I love coconut water, but 40%, like 45% or so, almost half of the people we asked were like, I just don't like coconut water. And I was like, wow, glad we asked. We were kind of blown away.
Yeah.
And also, back to that nutrition facts conversation, coconut water is naturally heavy in sugar and carbs. So if you are ditching that margarita and trying to go alcohol free for calorie reasons, it doesn't, we want to make sure you have that benefit clearly, and you're not just drinking a different sugary beverage that doesn't have alcohol.
Right.
And so, being in Arizona, I was kind of aware of this, cactus water concept, which is very similar to coconut water, except none of the sugar and carbs. So that's kind of when the light bulb went on. We were like, okay, let's move forward with coconut water, or with cactus water. Especially being an Arizona brand, it's kind of a fit. We can work with local farms, and that's kind of whole story. So we moved forward with the cactus water. It even tasted way better, and didn't have that kind of sugar and carb load. So once we had the product finalized, a couple partners of ours were just, we were brainstorming and thought Magic Cactus. It's got that infusion for those those psychoactive elements, and it's a cactus water base. 10% of the product is cactus water. So that's kind of how it came to be.
I love it. Yeah, it's got that kind of I don't know what the right term for that. Like where the magic and the cactus, they roll together, they flow. The brand is very, yeah.
It does. The only downfall is I get asked a lot if there's peyote in it, like the true psychoactive cactus, because it's like it's a slang word.
So is the answer no or not yet?
Yeah, it's a hybrid between the two. For now, it's no, so I don't get in trouble.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, like that's not available at this moment.
Yeah, no, we're not selling illegal drugs at this time.
Right. Yeah, you need a Magic Cactus shaman for that one.
Right.
What? So you guys, you're what, a couple of years in now from when you launched? Is that right?
We're about to be 1 year in. So we launched last October.
We're still early.
Yeah, so October 20th of last year. We're basically a year in. So about to celebrate that 1 year anniversary.
Very cool. So coming up on that 1 year, what was the most significant moment in that year where you're like, okay, I think this brand is going to do something. I think we're going to be able to have some legs with this.
Yeah, I think, we started out just doing direct consumer for the first 3 months. I think when we kind of realized there's something here is when we kind of tested out retail. We honestly, we aren't full of capital, and we were kind of bootstrapping our way to this point. And so we didn't have the resources to have ambassadors at every store doing in-person tasting and a lot of that traditional retail marketing. And so when we received feedback from those first retailers, that was like, this is the first time I've seen a brand fly off the shelves from day one with no boots on the ground or involvement. I was kind of like, okay, so that, we can get their attention, the customer's attention on first impression. And then I think they come back after they enjoy the product. So that kind of gave us some assurance that the product does some work on its own, and kind of incentivized us to step on the gas a little bit to boost that up even more.
Yeah, you're in such a fascinating time where there's really a strong trend building of people going sober, or at least going kind of that sober-ish, just mindfulness in their drinking. Yeah. But also a heightened awareness and an increased acceptance to hemp and cannabis and things like that. So fascinating timing to be doing what you're doing in the marketplace. What are some big goals, for year 2?
Yeah. So it's an interesting question, because there's goals that we can control, right? And there's goals that have just, because we're in this kind of odd regulatory time in the hemp space, there are goals that are completely out of my control. One of the kind of the main goal that includes both, our control and with, out of our control, is this just regulatory movement. So we're hoping that within the next year, hopefully sooner, that there's enough clear infrastructure in the hemp-derived THC space so that a Whole Foods or a Costco or a national grocer can feel comfortable moving forward with these products without kind of guessing on the regulatory side.
Okay. Yeah. So with all those things in mind, right, you still got to build, you still got to shoot for some things.
Yeah.
Do you have specific retailers you're trying to hit? Do you have, some big, hairy, audacious goals that you're like, okay, let's assume we can control it all. What are we going to do?
Yeah, I think the big, hairy, audacious goal for us is to be in a Whole Foods within the next year. They have not brought on any THC brands, so it is an audacious goal. But we hope to be one of the first to kind of break that pattern.
Well, and I think the style that you're going after is so different, right? Where
Yep.
you're not one of those ones that's really just a liquid edible, and where people really shouldn't be drinking more than one or two, right? Like,
right.
It's a big difference. So that's cool, man. I hope that works out. I'm sure you're putting all the right moves into play and into motion with it.
Well, thank you, man.
When you look out to other brands that you find inspiration from or you find inspiring, what are some brands that just really get you pumped?
Yeah, it's hard to skip over the liquid death conversation. I know it's kind of a basic response, but I have a lot of respect for the brand side. Brands that do well on both the content side and just building a community that's kind of a cult following. I think they've done all those things. And to be able to do that in water is just like kind of mind blowing, and kind of proves, to those who are, there's a lot of conversation going around right now, like on the digital marketing side, is like, is brand dead? We're all just so short attention span. We're kind of looking for the best deal. And I'm always like, no, brand will never be dead. Brand is brand. And so I think that liquid death case study, if you will, is proof of that.
I think dead brands are dead. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
You've got more than ever, your brand has to have life and culture and a story, and not everyone will buy into it, but those that do will buy in deeply. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you see people getting liquid death tattoos. You see people like it's become part of, their identity. And that's where, I don't know if I ever would have thought a water brand would have been able to pull that off. Like you're saying, right? I get it. People get Nike tattoos or, and will only wear Jordan 1s, stuff like that. But I don't think I ever thought, the replacement to Crystal Geyser is going,
right.
Be a brand people want to tattoo on themselves. So, but you look
Insane.
at just unapologetically what their brand and their alt and their edge, it's great.
It is.
I think it's a great brand to look at. And even if I'm sure in your community, it's talked about a lot, right? But in the general public, most people they see it. They don't understand why it's so amazing. Right.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I think that, just the fact, what they did in 12 months is just based on, obviously they had a lot of resources behind them, but, it's just crazy that brand can go that far. If you can really step out of the box and provide something different, even if the product isn't that innovative, just content and creative and brand purely can boost you above it. So that was kind of the most inspiring.
Yeah. That's what's fascinating. I've seen some brands that the brand themselves, like the product itself, isn't as edgy, like the branding isn't as crazy, but what they've done in their marketing and how they connect and just they're willing to not like stay vanilla. Even looking at like Duolingo's social media and things like that, where they're just willing to be a little bit human.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's cool.
Yeah, the human element's huge.
Yeah.
The human element's huge in this day of AI. You can feel it when there's a person behind the messaging.
Yeah, more than ever, for sure.
Yeah.
If I think you were mentioning when we were emailing that you listened to a few shows, so you hadn't seen them, but you might have a little bit of a heads up on some of the questions I'm asking, but I'm still going to ask them.
Okay.
What your brand's like coming up on a year old.
Yep.
For your 1 year birthday, if you could have one celebrity reach out to you and say they want to endorse the brand, who would it be?
Ooh, man, this is good.
Celebrity, athlete, whoever, like someone, influencer, whatever, some big name.
Yeah. One celebrity that I didn't see this one coming.
Okay.
I'd have to go on the music. I think we're going to go on the music side.
Okay.
I'm going to go. Can I give two?
Yeah, of
I
course.
just give one. Okay. I would.
Yeah, we don't hold really tight rules on the show. You could have given three, and I would have been okay. So two, you're in, Johnny. Go for it.
Yeah. I would say like a John Mayer or like a Chainsmokers type. So anybody who's been kind of affiliated with alcohol in the past and to get involved into a non-alc brand that's pretty different like this in this new space, I think that would be the dream come true.
See, that's fascinating to me because I love that angle. I think a lot of people naturally would have said, look for someone who's really like has a bandwagon or a platform of sobriety. But I think
I'm always opposite on that.
Yeah,
I'm so opposite
I
on
think
that.
the market is bigger of just the people saying, you know, a friend of mine, he's kind of big name in the marketing space these days, Alex Hormozy. He said, he's like, he doesn't drink as much, but people often think he gave up drinking. He's like, no, I just don't drink as much. He's like, because drinking too much doesn't cost you. It costs you 2 days. It costs you that night and the next day. And so he's like, I still drink. I just drink less, you know? And so, and I think that model, that mindset of just mindfulness and awareness is a bigger market, right?
Exactly.
And
100%. You're speaking my language there. Yeah. I think that is kind of the number one thing that I've seen as a mistake that a lot of brands have made. Like I've seen these kind of non-alc block parties where there's no alcohol allowed. Like the majority, like I would say, you know, we don't have the exact data because we haven't gotten a response from everybody, but I would say like 95% of our customers, even though we preach alcohol free, drink sometimes. I think the amount of people who are fully alcohol free for an extended period of time right now is just such a small sliver. And it's so when you kind of block out everybody who, you know, is an occasional drinker, you become not as relatable as a brand. So I think it's more powerful to see someone who's been affiliated with alcohol. I say the chain smokers because they have that tequila brand and their DJs, you know, that's kind of an easy one. So I think them coming over versus someone who's 10 years sober getting involved, I think would be a lot more powerful.
So I didn't drink for most of my adult life. But I never had a problem like being with my friends or like being out drinking, like if they were out drinking. And I from a brand perspective and even just as an individual perspective, I never understood the teetotal mentality of like, no, we are now, like you said, sober only. It's like, hey, we can be sober supportive.
Yes, that's exactly how we think of it.
We can be sober safe, but why all of a sudden become, an exclusive mentality? Just not my style. So I think it's really cool the angles that you're taking with this.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it's not black and white. Not everything has to be an end all be all to your lifestyle.
Yeah.
You can also do an ice bath. You can also do an ice bath once a month. You don't have to be, it's I feel like if you pick a lifestyle, it doesn't have to be all in on that. But that's a whole different rant.
That's what's so fascinating is most people naturally are more nuanced, but they don't know how to communicate nuance. Right. They only know how to communicate in black and white sometimes. And so I like where you guys are going with this. I like the direction. I like the angle. I think I'm really hoping this year too is just everything for you.
Thank you, man.
Jonny, for me, we create businesses, we take these risks, we do all this stuff but it's, it's just a part of our life, right? Business isn't everything. So I always ask, what is one item on Jonny's personal, not business, but your personal bucket list that you're going to accomplish in the next 12 months?
I want to spend as much time outdoors as possible. So hopefully get some days snowboarding this winter.
You got a dream park or a dream place you want to go?
I really want to try those mountains in Utah. As well as like Jackson Hole. So I've spent the last 7 years in California before getting to Arizona. And so most of my experience was California and Colorado. So I definitely want to try some new ones.
Killer. That's great. Very reasonably attained. So I'm looking forward to the update, of when you hit some of those resorts and get out there.
Definitely will.
Really appreciate you coming on the show. Please, everyone, go check out what they're doing over at magiccactus.com. And if you're on Instagram, it's Drink Magic Cactus. Really cool. They do where 10% of the profits go to organizations that are treating substance abuse. So again, very mindful company and what they're doing. So reach out and support them. Appreciate you coming out, Jonny. To all my biz ninjas, wherever you're listening, watching, tuning in, or streaming, it's your turn to go out and do something.